A gentle breeze swept across the mountain peak, dispelling the oppressive tension in the air. Yet, as the crowd gazed at the slender figure gripping the sharp black branch, its tip pointed directly at the kneeling Shen Tu-Ju's forehead, their hearts involuntarily tightened. From that figure radiated an overwhelming aura of killing intent, cold, ruthless, and merciless. The outcome was decided. Eyes shifted toward Shen Tu-Ju, whose breathing was weak, and whose once handsome face had grown deathly pale. A silent sigh filled everyone's hearts. The result of this battle had become clear, though the conclusion left them with complicated feelings. At the start, no one, despite Lin Dong's impressive performance with Azura mode, believed he could defeat the renowned Iron Azura of the Celestial Wind Sea region. Among the younger generation of this sea region, only two from ancient cosmic formation and evil wind cave heaven had ever matched Shen Tu-Ju. And now, had a third contender truly emerged? People exchanged glances, their expressions filled with amazement and disbelief. No one knew where this Lin Dong had come from, but his strength was undeniable. For a brief moment, the oppressive atmosphere in the arena lingered. Lin Dong's killing intent still clung to the air, undiminished. His gaze remained fixed on Shen Tu-Ju, the cold gleam of his black ironwood staff flickering ominously. You win. Shen Tu-Ju stared at Lin Dong for a long time, his eyes burning with frustration and unwillingness. But in the end, his gaze dimmed. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, he spoke in a raspy voice. Well fought. Hearing these words, the coldness in Lin Dong's eyes finally receded, and a faint smile slowly spread across his face, as if his earlier ruthlessness had never existed. The Gu clan found themselves a fine ally, Shen Tu-Ju muttered. He had given everything in this fight, only to be unexpectedly defeated by Lin Dong. Though reluctant to admit it, he had to acknowledge that Lin Dong's abilities, composure, and ruthless decisiveness were beyond what most of the so-called geniuses from the four great clans could offer. Your strength is extraordinary, Brother Shen Tuesday. I merely used some tricks, Lin Dong said with a polite smile. A win is a win. Every trick is part of one's strength. Shen Tu-Ju gave Lin Dong a deep look, waved his hand, and turned to leave without further words. This time, you've won. The Primordial Wilderness Tower spot belongs to the Gu clan. But I'll find you again. Lin Dong watched Shen Tu-Ju's retreating figure, slowly releasing his clenched fists. Then, he turned his gaze toward the ancient tower looming at the plaza's edge, his lips pressing into a firm line. After all the struggle and effort, he had finally achieved his goal. Now, he could only hope that the Primordial Wilderness Tower would help repair the mysterious stone talisman. He won. As Shen Tu-Ju left the arena, the result was officially sealed. The Gu clan side erupted in joyous cheers. Impressive. He even beat Shen Tu-Ju. Gu Yuntian clicked his tongue in amazement, looking at the slender figure in the arena with newfound respect. Having fought Shen Tu-Ju himself, he knew all too well how dangerous that opponent was. But today, Shen Tu-Ju had hit an immovable wall. Gu Shua stroked his beard, his gaze resting on Lin Dong with a mixture of admiration and regret. If only we could bring such talent into the Gu clan, he would become a key figure in our future. It seems Lin Dong's name will soon resound across the Celestial Wind Sea region, Gu Mingqi said with a bright smile. The others nodded in agreement. After today's battle, Lin Dong's name would no longer be obscure. It was as though they had witnessed the rise of a new star, though whether Lin Dong cared for such fame was uncertain. This guy. Meanwhile, on the Wei clan side, Wei Zhen and Chen Luo wore grim expressions. Wei Zhen's pale face twitched slightly. He really defeated Shen Tu-Ju. Wei Zhen clenched his fists, a flicker of fear flashing in his eyes. The earlier battle had shown him that Lin Dong hadn't even used his full strength when they fought previously. Brother Chen, this kid won't be easy to handle, Wei Zhen muttered to the gloomy-looking Chen Luo beside him. Chen Luo's gaze darkened, but a cold smile crept across his face. He won't be easy for us, but that just means things will be even worse for him. Oh. Wei Zhen's eyes gleamed with interest. He killed my junior apprentice brother. Given my master's temperament, this matter won't end here. I'll send word immediately. Once my master arrives, That brat won't escape, no matter what. If Elder Evil Bone gets involved, this kid is finished, Wei Zhen said, his eyes gleaming with malicious joy. His hatred for Lin Dong had only deepened after today's battle, and the prospect of eliminating him filled him with satisfaction. This is what he brought upon himself. My junior brother might have been foolish, but Lin Dong had no right to kill him. Even if the Gu clan backs him, my master, as one of the enshrined elders of Evil Wind Cave Heaven, won't be deterred, Qin Luo sneered. You're right, Brother Qin. Lin Dong's sudden rise must be due to some lucky encounter. He's carrying quite a few powerful martial arts techniques. If those fall into your hands, you might even surpass Shin Tu-ju, Wei Zhen said slyly. Hearing this, a greedy smirk spread across Qin Luo's face. He had been captivated by Lin Dong's technique, which allowed him to draw power from the earth. If he could obtain it, his own strength would soar. While Wei Zhen and Qin Luo plotted against Lin Dong, Shin Tu-tao of the Shen Tu family sighed deeply as he watched Shin Tu-ju return, his face expressionless. However, he didn't reprimand him. Instead, he patted his shoulder and turned toward the Gu clan's side. We admit defeat. When Shan Tuo-tao finished speaking, many of the younger members of the Shen Tuo clan looked disheartened. However, the earlier battle had been fought fairly, and since Shan Tuo-ju had lost, they had no reason to object. Shin Tuorong, dressed in black, bit her lip as she looked at Shen Tuo-ju, whose expression had dimmed. Her gaze was complex. This was the first time she had seen this proud prodigy of the Shen Tuo clan so defeated. Moreover, his defeat was not at the hands of the top two talents of the younger generation from the Celestial Windsea region, but by a previously unknown young man. Who could have predicted such an outcome before the battle began? Hearing Shan Tuo-tao's words, Gu Shua quickly clasped his hands and smiled. Thank you. Shin Tuo-tao glanced at Lin Dong, his eyes sharp. Yet, under this intense gaze, Lin Dong remained unfazed, meeting his gaze with calm, steady eyes. If you want to thank someone, thank that young man. Your Gu clan found a good ally this time. Their stare-down lasted for a moment before Shan Tuo-tao withdrew his gaze, the sharpness in his eyes fading. He nodded slightly, and his voice carried a hint of admiration. The young man before him was indeed remarkable. Shin Tuo-ju's defeat wasn't unjust. Sometimes he couldn't help but wonder. When this young man faced the two prodigies at the pinnacle of the younger generation in the Celestial Windsea region, would he still be able to maintain this razor-sharp composure? That would certainly be an interesting encounter. The Tower Guard battle had concluded, and with it, the martial gathering was coming to an end. The crowds atop the mountain, after a wave of uproar, began to gradually disperse. Though the martial gathering island would remain lively for some time, the astonishing battle that had taken place here would likely spread quickly. Lin Dong, however, was not particularly concerned with this. Once the results were clear, he returned to the Gu clan's seating area, surrounded by looks of awe, and asked directly, When can I enter the Primordial Wilderness Tower? If you wish, you can enter tomorrow. Gu Shua, clearly in high spirits, replied with a laugh. Lin Dong nodded slightly, feeling the weight in his heart finally lift. His hand brushed lightly against his chest, sensing the mysterious stone talisman within him trembling with excitement at that moment. I hope you'll find your restoration here. Feeling the tremor within, Lin Dong smiled and murmured to himself, gazing up at the ancient Primordial Wilderness Tower. As the excitement on Martial Gathering Island gradually faded with the conclusion of the event, the strong practitioners from all sides, having witnessed a high-quality battle, left satisfied. Of course, as they departed, they took with them the shock caused by a young man named Lin Dong, the one who had defeated the Shan Tuo clan's Azura. His reputation began to spread across the Celestial Windsea region, unbeknownst to him. However, Lin Dong himself wasn't too interested in the spread of his fame. If it weren't for his search for Little Mink and Little Yin, he might have tried to avoid it altogether. So, when Gu Mingqi mentioned his growing fame in the Celestial Windsea region, Lin Dong was indifferent. What concerned him more was clearly the Primordial Wilderness Tower. Fortunately, the Gu clan didn't pull any tricks. The day after the martial gathering ended, Lin Dong, led by Gu Shua, once again stood before the ancient stone tower. Pausing at the base of the tower, Lin Dong looked up at the weathered structure, which seemed to stand timeless and unyielding. The years had left their marks on its surface, but it stood tall and unmoved, as if it had existed for eternity. The Primordial Wilderness Tower has 8 levels, each filled with primordial wilderness energy. Lin Dong, if you enter, be sure not to go beyond the 5th level, Gu Shua warned, standing beside him. Oh! Lin Dong was slightly taken aback. Each level you ascend, the primordial wilderness energy becomes several times more concentrated. Though it has a powerful tempering effect on the body, the energy is extremely heavy. With your current strength, reaching the 5th level is likely your limit. If you push further, the overwhelming energy could harm your body, Gu Shua cautioned. Does that mean you'd need the strength of the Death Mystique stage to enter the 8th level? Lin Dong asked in surprise. The 8th level? Gu Shua shook his head with a strange expression. No one has ever reached the 8th level of the Primordial Wilderness Tower, not even those at the Death Mystique stage. Not even the Death Mystique stage? Lin Dong was taken aback. The energy in the Primordial Wilderness Tower was so intense that even a Death Mystique stage expert couldn't withstand it? The heads of the 5 great clans have all tried to enter the 8th level, but none have succeeded, and they are all at the perfect completion of the Death Mystique stage, Gu Shua said solemnly. Lin Dong's pupils contracted slightly. Perfect completion of the Death Mystique stage. That level of strength was top tier even in the Chaos Demon Sea. Yet, even they couldn't reach the 8th level of the Primordial Wilderness Tower. It seemed this ancient tower was far from simple. This tower has existed for an extremely long time. Our 5 clans discovered it 100 years ago and have jointly guarded it ever since. We've tried to uncover its mysteries, but aside from the vast amount of primordial wilderness energy inside, we've found nothing, Gu Shua said regretfully. They could all sense the extraordinary nature of the tower, but no one had truly unlocked its secrets. Lin Dong nodded thoughtfully. Since the tower had survived from ancient times, it was likely built by a remarkable individual. I'll be careful. As this thought crossed Lin Dong's mind, he smiled at Gu Shua, while a tinge of anticipation rose within him. He was quite eager to see what mysteries the Primordial Wilderness Tower held, especially since even the mysterious stone talisman was so restless. Gu Shua nodded and said, each year, there are only 3 spots to enter the Primordial Wilderness Tower. You've used one, so the Gu clan has 2 remaining. However, we haven't yet decided who will take the other 2, so you'll be entering alone this time. Lin Dong had no objections. Being alone suited him just fine, and he preferred to keep the mysterious stone talisman in his body hidden from others. If you're ready, should we enter the Primordial Wilderness Tower now? Gu Shua asked. Yes. Lin Dong smiled and nodded, his eyes filled with curiosity and excitement. Seeing this, Gu Shua didn't say more. With a wave of his hand, a golden token flew from his palm. Golden beams of light shot out, illuminating the entrance of the Primordial Wilderness Tower. Buzz, buzz. As the golden light enveloped it, the surface of the tower glowed brilliantly. Faintly, a golden formation appeared, wrapping around the entire stone tower. Lin Dong gazed at the formation covering the tower. This formation clearly wasn't a part of the original structure. It must have been set up by the 5 great clans, likely to assert their ownership of the Primordial Wilderness Tower. As the golden formation covered the tower, waves of light rippled, and a golden gate opened. Go ahead, Gu Shua said, glancing at the open golden gate. Lin Dong nodded without further delay. He stepped forward, passing through the golden gate, and placed his palm against the cold stone door. Rumble. As soon as Lin Dong's hand touched it, the Primordial Wilderness Tower trembled slightly, and the tightly shut stone door slowly opened. An ancient aura wafted out, so strong that it felt as though the very air around him had become suffused with the primordial essence of the wilderness. Taking a deep breath of this ancient air, Lin Dong didn't hesitate. He stepped forward and, under Gu Shua's watchful eyes, walked into the dimly lit stone tower. Boom. Once Lin Dong entered the tower, the heavy stone door slowly closed again, sealing the ancient atmosphere within. Tap. Lin Dong's footsteps echoed as he walked through the dim stone tower. The space inside was far larger than he had imagined. Soft light radiated from moonlight pearls embedded in the walls, making the interior feel even more vast and eerily silent. It was completely empty. That was Lin Dong's first impression of the Primordial Wilderness Tower. The space within was devoid of anything remarkable, with only the pervasive primordial wilderness energy that hinted at the tower's uniqueness. Clenching his fist, Lin Dong released a wave of devouring energy. Instantly, a large surge of primordial wilderness energy flowed into his body. As it entered, he immediately felt a heat spreading through his muscles and bones, as if they were warming up from within. What a strange energy! Lin Dong tightly clenched his fists, a strong sense of joy rising in his eyes. The heavenly dragon aura that Qingji had left him had gradually merged into his body as his strength grew, but without it, the progress of his sky-transforming dragon art had slowed. Yet now, the primordial wilderness energy had clearly broken through that bottleneck. It seemed the primordial wilderness tower truly had extraordinary effects in refining the body. If he trained here for a while, his sky-transforming dragon art would surely improve significantly. What a great place! Lin Dong grinned. However, just as his smile appeared, a white light suddenly shot out from his body. At the center of the light was the mysterious stone talisman. The stone talisman, at last, could no longer hold itself back. Buzz, buzz. The stone talisman floated before Lin Dong, glowing with intense white light. It circled around him before letting out a resonant hum, transforming into a beam of white light and shooting toward the upper level of the primordial wilderness tower. Seeing this, Lin Dong quickly gathered his primordial energy, his body turning into a blur as he swiftly followed. Whoosh whoosh. Man and talisman flew through the tower, the sound of wind breaking as they ascended directly to the second level, continuing upward without pause. The spacious interior of the tower echoed with the sound of rushing wind as a flash of white light zipped through, followed closely by a shadow. The two streaks of light shattered the ancient stillness within the tower. These two lights were, of course, Lin Dong and the mysterious stone talisman, surging toward the higher levels of the primordial wilderness tower. The talisman's sudden actions left Lin Dong somewhat helpless. Despite its fearsome origins, he had never fully controlled it, and many of its actions were beyond his grasp. Faced with situations like this, all he could do was follow along. Already at the 5th floor, as Lin Dong burst into yet another floor, he suddenly felt a heavy pressure descend on him. Looking around, he noticed that the primordial wilderness energy here was denser, with a rich, dark yellow hue that exuded an overwhelming weight. Under this pressure, even Lin Dong felt as though he was sinking into quicksand, his movements far less agile than before. Struggling against the thick atmosphere, Lin Dong looked up at the still-speeding stone talisman. Gritting his teeth, he summoned the devouring ancestral talisman from his forehead. A black circle of devouring energy spread out, enveloping his body. The devouring energy pushed back the surrounding heaviness, allowing Lin Dong to move more freely again. As he looked ahead, he saw the mysterious stone talisman already darting into the 6th floor. Lin Dong let out a bitter laugh, cursing softly under his breath before darting forward once again. Though the 3 divine artifacts within him, the mysterious stone talisman, the devouring ancestral talisman, and the ancient cosmic formation, varied in their effects, it was the mysterious stone talisman that seemed to have the least noticeable impact on him. However, he understood clearly that this was only because the spirit of the stone talisman was still in a deep slumber. If he could awaken it one day, its aid would surely not be any less significant than that of the devouring ancestral talisman. For that reason, he absolutely could not abandon the mysterious stone talisman. With this thought in mind, Lin Dong gritted his teeth and pushed forward through the increasingly dense primordial wilderness energy. Following the lead of the mysterious stone talisman, he charged straight up to the 7th level of the primordial wilderness tower. When Lin Dong reached the 7th level, even with the protection of the devouring ancestral talisman, he could feel the extreme pressure crushing down on his muscles. The surrounding primordial wilderness energy was almost blindingly golden, like an endless ocean of molten gold. Lin Dong stood cautiously within this sea of golden liquid, not daring to move a muscle. He knew that if it weren't for the devouring ancestral talisman absorbing at least 90% of the pressure, even with his mastery of the sky-transforming dragon art, he would have been reduced to a puddle of flesh. Under such intense pressure, even his spirit could not escape. Fortunately, to Lin Dong's relief, upon reaching the 7th level, the mysterious stone talisman finally stopped and showed no signs of continuing to the final level. Buzz. The stone talisman floated in the empty space of the 7th level, suddenly emitting a gentle white light. This light formed a vortex around it, and soon, Lin Dong saw streams of the golden liquid-like primordial wilderness energy flowing toward the stone talisman, continuously pouring into it. As the vast amount of primordial wilderness energy was absorbed, the surface of the mysterious stone talisman began to flicker with light, and Lin Dong could faintly sense a trace of life returning to it. It seems like the primordial wilderness energy here has some sort of restorative effect on the stone talisman, Lin Dong murmured in surprise as he watched. The primordial wilderness energy was truly mystical, not only capable of tempering the human body but also affecting various spirit treasures. But how am I supposed to cultivate here? Lin Dong glanced around, his gaze passing through the devouring ancestral talisman's protective light barrier, which enveloped him, and settled on the golden liquid-like energy outside. His face turned a little green at the sight. The primordial wilderness energy here had nearly solidified into a physical state, and its energy was so dense it was terrifying. Even Lin Dong didn't dare to absorb it recklessly. Buzz. Just as Lin Dong's face grew more distressed, the mysterious stone talisman seemed to sense his plight. A gentle white light shot out from it, enveloping Lin Dong in a 10-foot radius. Under the light's influence, the golden liquid-like primordial wilderness energy began to evaporate rapidly, transforming into more manageable golden strands of energy. The mysterious stone talisman was actually helping Lin Dong by diluting the primordial wilderness energy. Though even in its diluted form, the energy was still overwhelmingly potent for someone at Lin Dong's level. With the help of the devouring ancestral talisman, he could now withstand it. At least it has a conscience, Lin Dong muttered with a wry smile. He glanced again at the mysterious stone talisman, which was still absorbing the energy, and then sat down cross-legged. The primordial wilderness energy on the 8th level, in both quantity and quality, far surpassed that of the previous levels. Lin Dong figured that even within the top 5 families, not many had the strength to reach this level. Time to enjoy the rewards of all that hard-fought effort. With a grin, Lin Dong focused his mind, and the devouring ancestral talisman appeared above his head, forming a black hole. The devouring power surged outward, drawing in the diluted primordial wilderness energy from all around, which then flowed into the spinning black hole. Boom! As the vast amount of energy poured into his body, Lin Dong's body trembled, and his skin instantly took on a golden hue. A scorching heat spread through his body like molten lava, emitting a faint sizzling sound wherever it passed. Ah! Lin Dong exhaled deeply, his face glowing gold. He could clearly feel his cells, muscles, and bones all eagerly absorbing the energy, as if they were rejoicing at the sheer richness of it. The primordial wilderness energy was almost irresistibly enticing to his body. Suppressing the excitement surging within him, Lin Dong immediately activated the sky-transforming dragon art. The sound of a dragon's roar echoed from within, and a blue light spread from the depths of his body, blending with the golden hue. Like a giant dragon devouring its prey, his body absorbed the energy entirely. From an outsider's perspective, Lin Dong's body was now radiating both blue and gold. As the two colors intertwined, his skin began to take on an ancient, primordial appearance. Buzz. As the blue and gold lights wove together, faint blue dragon patterns quietly began to spread across Lin Dong's arms, showing signs of forming a 5th azure dragon light pattern. The power of the sky-transforming dragon art was determined by the number of azure dragon light patterns one could cultivate. Previously, even after absorbing a heavenly dragon aura, Lin Dong had only managed to form 4 azure dragon light patterns. But now, within the primordial wilderness tower, He had made significant progress and was on the verge of condensing the fifth. And this seemed to be just the beginning. Lin Dong could feel the formation of the fifth Azure Dragon Light pattern, and a surge of joy welled up in his heart. He knew that if he could fully condense 10 Azure Dragon Light patterns, he would be able to unleash the Azure Dragon Celestial Seal and easily defeat Shin Tu-ju without enduring such a grueling battle as before. Lin Dong smirked inwardly and refocused his attention. The azure light within him transformed into a colossal dragon, devouring the primordial wilderness energy flooding into his body without hesitation. To let such a chance slip away would indeed be nothing short of a divine retribution. Within the vast seventh level of the primordial wilderness tower, one person and one talisman became like two bottomless pits, their suction force surging as they endlessly absorbed the abundant primordial wilderness energy around them. Whoosh! As they absorbed more, a fierce wind swept through the space, the golden liquid-like primordial wilderness energy rumbling like ocean waves. Fortunately, there was no one else in the tower. Otherwise, this spectacle would surely have attracted prying eyes. With no one to disturb them, the man and the talisman continued to absorb recklessly. However, as Lin Dong reveled in the pleasure of his body's growing strength, he failed to notice a subtle fissure beginning to form in the primordial wilderness energy near the passage leading to the 8th level of the tower. Through this crack, a faint but ancient surge of energy began to seep through. The deep roar of a storm echoed within the 7th level of the tower, and waves of primordial wilderness energy, resembling a golden sea, surged with astonishing momentum. Within this golden sea, two empty spaces emerged, one occupied by a person, the other by a talisman. Both absorbed the surging energy at a frenzied pace, like insatiable black holes. As the absorption continued, Lin Dong's body began to glow with a brilliant golden light. His skin shimmered with a radiant sheen, and from a distance, he resembled a wrathful golden Buddha from ancient times, exuding an indescribable sense of terrifying power. Moreover, beneath this golden glow, the faint sound of dragon roars echoed. His golden skin rippled slightly, as dark azure dragon patterns emerged, flickering in and out of view. Each pulse of the dragon markings unleashed a powerful surge of energy, causing the very air to vibrate with deep, explosive sounds. Crack! Golden light surged as Lin Dong's clothes suddenly tore apart, revealing his bare, glowing body. His figure was lean and defined, not overly muscular but radiating the sense of immense, explosive power beneath his nearly perfect physique. Most strikingly, on both his chest and back, two dark azure dragon markings were coiled, bringing the total number of dragon marks in his sky-transforming dragon art to 8 after just half a month. This new power was twice as strong as before. It was clear that the primordial wilderness energy within this tower had indeed provided an extraordinary enhancement to his physical body. As Lin Dong's body became increasingly robust under the tempering of the primordial wilderness energy, his primordial energy also refined itself. The issue of instability in his power from his earlier consumption of the Earth's spirit essence had been completely resolved, saving him from the potential problem of an unsteady foundation. Lin Dong had always advanced steadily, laying solid groundwork in his cultivation, and a shaky foundation from a rushed advancement would have been disastrous. Thus, Lin Dong's gains from entering the primordial wilderness tower were significant, making his previous intense battles worthwhile. While Lin Dong was absorbed in his cultivation, the mysterious stone talisman not far from him also underwent changes. Faint, ancient runes started to appear on its rough surface, and its previously dull color now shone with a hint of vitality. It was clear that the heavy damage it had suffered was gradually being repaired within this tower. As for what abilities this talisman would regain once fully restored, Lin Dong could hardly contain his anticipation and curiosity. Half a month passed quietly as Lin Dong's cultivation continued. During this time, the azure dragon patterns on his body had fully solidified into 10. When they unfurled, it was as if 10 colossal dragons were stretching their immense bodies, each releasing terrifying waves of power that seemed capable of shattering the very fabric of space. Whoosh! The golden glow around Lin Dong's body began to fade, and the black vortex above his head quietly disappeared, transforming into a streak of black light that re-entered his body. As the devouring ancestral talisman returned to his body, Lin Dong, who had kept his eyes closed for the entire month, slowly opened them. The instant he did, two brilliant beams of golden light shot out, tearing apart the primordial wilderness energy in front of him. The golden light quickly faded from his pupils, reverting to their normal dark color. At the same time, Lin Dong's body returned to its natural state. Roar! Stretching his arms, Lin Dong heard a low dragon roar from within his body. The sound wasn't external. Rather, it came from his bones and muscles grinding together, causing a wave of energy to surge throughout his body. So much power. Clenching his fists, Lin Dong felt the surge of strength inside him and couldn't help but grin. This month of cultivation had exceeded his expectations. Not only had it resolved the instability caused by his power surge, but it also allowed his sky-transforming dragon art to advance even further. With his current strength, if he were to face off against Shin Tuju again, he was confident he could crush him with a single blow. 10 Azure Dragon markings. This power was twice as strong as before. Lin Dong stood up, feeling the primordial energy within his body solidify once more. With a single thought, the energy surged to his palm, and he clenched his fist, throwing a punch forward. Bang! The air in front of him seemed to compress to the extreme, and a visible arc of energy rippled outward from Lin Dong's fist. The primordial wilderness energy ahead of him exploded, dispersed by the force of his punch. Satisfied after a brief test, Lin Dong retracted his fist and stood still. He then turned his gaze to a nearby spot, where the mysterious stone talisman continued to emit a powerful suction, endlessly drawing in the surrounding primordial wilderness energy. Under this absorption, the ancient runes on its surface became even clearer. What a glutton! Lin Dong chuckled to himself, a hint of envy in his tone. Although the primordial wilderness energy was a great tonic, every stage had its limits. For Lin Dong, at his current level, his body could only refine 10 azure dragon light patterns. Thus, further absorption of the energy would be of little use to him for now. After observing the stone talisman's absorption for a moment and confirming there were no abnormalities, Lin Dong relaxed and turned his attention to the interior of the 7th level. The area remained vast and empty, with nothing particularly eye-catching besides the golden primordial wilderness energy that permeated the space. After scanning the area, Lin Dong's eyes were naturally drawn to the passage leading to the 8th level. It was more of a golden membrane than a passage, and beyond that light film lay the 8th level of the primordial wilderness tower, a place no one had ever ventured into. Standing beneath the golden light film, Lin Dong looked up, his gaze fixed on it. As he stared, he could faintly sense an ancient pulse emanating from within. Under the influence of that pulse, even his own spirit seemed to tremble slightly. What could be hidden on the 8th level? Lin Dong murmured to himself, his brows furrowing. Although the pulse was extremely subtle, it carried an intimidating presence. Lin Dong's eyes focused sharply on the light film. He noticed what seemed to be a tiny crack at the film's edge. Staring at the crack, his eyes flickered with caution, but he refrained from approaching. Lin Dong had always maintained a respectful distance from the unknown, especially when it came to mysterious, unpredictable forces. Buzz. Just as Lin Dong was about to back away, a flash of purple gold light suddenly flickered from the crack. Then, a beam of purple gold light, as thick as a thumb, shot out, heading straight for him. Lin Dong had been on alert ever since noticing the crack, so the moment the light appeared, he sensed it. His expression changed drastically, and as he leaped backward, he immediately punched out, sending a formidable wave of force hurtling towards the purple gold light. Boom! Yet, the wave of energy, strong enough to injure even a peak practitioner at the minor completion of the life mystique stage, disintegrated the moment it collided with the purple gold light. The beam then shot straight toward Lin Dong, and before he could react, the tail of light flashed and forcefully burrowed into the center of his forehead. Snap!